Recently, I created a series of videos that culminated in beating the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom without using any runes, and you lovely folks gave me lots of new challenge ideas. Some of them were cool, others more, Can you beat Tears of the Kingdom without Tears of the Kingdom? No. However, I didn't want to do an individual video on each of them for a few reasons. First, I'd be bound to start repeating myself pretty soon because many of these ideas overlap, and I want all of my creations to remain distinct and worthwhile. Second, most of these don't really have enough content to fill a full video. And third, I didn't want to replay the entire game again for each suggestion because at this point, I've spent nearly 60 hours doing Tears of the Kingdom challenge runs. So instead, I'll be using the knowledge I've gained from those 60 hours to assess the feasibility of each challenge in a more rapid-fire format, with extra research and testing as necessary. I highly recommend you go watch my No Runes video if you haven't seen it already, because parts of this one won't make any sense otherwise. Also, I'm totally not biased or anything, but I just think it's a really good video and that you would enjoy it. I'll wait here. Alright, you're back? You're done? Great, let's get started, and please remember to like the video if you enjoy it, dislike the video if you hate it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment with all your fantastic thoughts and feedback. Can you beat Tears of the Kingdom without pausing? The Tears of the Kingdom Pauseless challenge was inspired by GameJam 3000's video about Breath of the Wild, so we'll be using her rules. Any input that stops time in-game is not allowed, which encompasses left, right, and up on the D-pad, the L button, as well as plus and minus, the more traditional pause buttons. This means that we're unable to switch weapons, shields, or bows, change runes, fuse arrows, throw or drop items, open the inventory, or access the map. As a result, fast travel and manual saving are also impossible. The tutorial shrines actually are possible because the required rune is automatically equipped as soon as you enter. Fuse is a little tricky though because you're unable to either throw a fire fruit or fuse one to an arrow. However, fire fruit isn't even needed to get the key, as you can just use the nearby brazier to light the arrow without it. Unfortunately, after you're given recall, this challenge is slaughtered faster than Link slaughters bokoblins, because the game wants you to fast travel back to the Room of Awakening and there's no other way to reach it. Even if we had access to Ultra Hand at this point, which we don't, there's no way we'd have enough batteries to fly up, and we can't replenish with Zonai charges because opening the inventory isn't allowed. The infinite height glitch wouldn't be allowed because it requires opening the rune menu and the shield menu. The challenge breaks again once you open the Temple of Time and need to complete the little platforming course to reach the altar. The only rune you'd have access to is Recall, but literally any other rune is needed here. In my run without abilities, I used wings and a speed potion to jump this gap, but without being able to open your inventory, this becomes impossible as well. Recall without Ultra Hand is basically useless, and there's no way to get some other object here that you could use Recall on. However, it would be possible to create a bomb shield with fuse right after completing that shrine and not use it until it's needed to cross this gap. But because you can't get back to the Room of Awakening, a completely pauseless run of Tears of the Kingdom is not possible, at least with the community's current knowledge. Can you beat Tears of the Kingdom without weapons? Link, the legendary swordman, has completely forgotten how to use damaging or defensive devices of any kind, including melee weapons, bows, and shields. I guess muscle memory kinda disappears when your arm has literally been replaced. Beating the game without any weapons is technically impossible, although a couple people have already done a minimum weapons run. In the opening, you're required to kill some keys, but the only item you have access to is that darn Master Sword. Ugh, such a burden. To start the tutorial, you're required to retrieve the damaged sword and cut through some vines. Lastly, the final blow to the demon dragon at the end requires the Master Sword, although that is sort of a cutscene. If you define it as not picking up any new weapons though, all of these instances are allowed because the game unavoidably starts with the sword already in your inventory. But because you're forced to pick it up and use it on the Great Sky Island, I'm gonna go ahead and say that beating Tears of the Kingdom without weapons is impossible. Can you beat Tears of the Kingdom without Link? Sure, it's possible. All it takes is modding another character over Link or a lot of patience with the healing brush tool in Photoshop. This took me 2 hours and it doesn't even look that good! Can you beat Tears of the Kingdom with only Fuse? The Fuse only challenge means that the only ability I'm allowed to use is Fuse. Bet you never would have guessed that. Because I've already beaten the game without using any runes, this is obviously possible. So the only way to make it interesting is to find out if it's possible without using any glitches, because the runeless run wasn't. That means the Fuse only run is possible if I can beat the Ascend and Recall shrines with only fused items. Bomb shields specifically are going to be my best friend for attempting this. Let's start with the Ascend shrine because it needs to be completed first. 1 bomb jump is enough to get over the first wall and 2 are needed for the second. This third jump is probably the hardest in the shrine because the platform is so small and some minor changes can cause Link to be launched backward and away from it. However, it's possible to land on top of the extrusion or grab the ledge. The third wall is tiny and easy, and this large platform is pretty easy to jump onto. Unlike the second wall, which requires 2 jumps, there's plenty of room to bomb jump off of here, and the fact that it's moving doesn't matter too much. I grabbed the ledge so I didn't have to aim, but I'm sure that you could land on top of the protrusion as well. Yes, the Ascend Shrine is possible with only Fuse. But after this, the challenge hits a bit of a snag because I'm out of bomb flowers. Before the Fuse Shrine, I collected all 6 that naturally spawn in the bottomless cave, but after reaching the Recall Shrine, I needed more, so I warped back to the Gutenbach Shrine to check, and lo and behold, exactly 1 had respawned. This gave me hope, so I decided to AFK for a while at the Ultra Hand Shrine and wait for more to respawn. After about 5 hours of that, I went back to find that the game had decided to troll me. I don't know the mechanics behind item replenishing in this game, but I have a couple theories. 1. I just got lucky the first time and RNG caused the 1 bomb to respawn. 2. It's based on the number of actions Link performs, so AFKing didn't do anything. Either way, I was done waiting around and decided to just duplicate my singular bomb instead to see if the Recall Shrine was possible with Fuse. The first gap isn't too hard. Time a bomb jump correctly to land on the raft as it appears, then windshield jump to the next platform. I tried for half an hour to bomb jump from here to the next area, but to no avail. Sometimes I landed in the water on the upper area, but was immediately pushed back down by the waterfall. I also found out that bomb jumps go much further if you land on a corner, but even that tech wasn't enough to reach the top. I was stumped for a while here until I took another look in my inventory and saw the ice choo-choo jellies I'd picked up hours earlier. In Tears of the Kingdom, ice plus water equals automatic floating ice cuboid. It's basically Cryonis from Breath of the Wild, but allows for fewer insane physics shenanigans. They've just gotta take the fun out of everything, huh? So what I can do here is toss some ice jelly into the water to create a walkable path, then bomb jump up to the final area. The final door requires precise timing and positioning to make it through as it opens, but it's definitely possible to bomb jump through. So I have sorta proved that Tears of the Kingdom can be beaten glitchless with only Fuse. Assuming the 1 bomb flower that respawned wasn't a fluke, you'd only need 2 more to beat the Recall Shrine. As a result, I am rating this challenge probably possible. Can you beat Tears of the Kingdom without runes or stamina? This is an even harder version of the runeless challenge I've already completed. Of course, if I allow glitches, it becomes trivial, because all sky islands can be reached and all fall damage avoided by using the infinite height glitch. This run would take forever, but it's totally possible. However, I like to avoid glitches except when absolutely necessary, to see if a challenge run fits within the intended mechanics of the game, and without using glitches, this run becomes extremely problematic. My primary method of transportation in the runeless runs was the mid-air wingspawn, but that technique requires the paraglider. I'm also prevented from completing a whole bunch of shrines, and while I think the Goron questline would still be possible, traversing the fire temple would be a lot harder. None of those things really matter though, because all I need to beat the game is to run through the final enemy gauntlet and beat the boss rush. So let's take a look at that. Even falling into Hyrule Castle Chasm is a serious issue, because without gliding, Zonai machines, or glitches, there's no way to avoid the fall damage. Fairies are a possibility, but I don't know how you'd reach a fairy pond sky island, and the Great Fairy Fountains require Ultra Hand to unlock. Even ignoring that, and assuming it's possible to safely get through the enemy gauntlet, the easiest boss of the entire game is completely impossible in this challenge. Colgera is an aerial boss that you can defeat either by shooting its weak points or diving through them. Without the paraglider though, it's not possible to gain enough height to shoot them. So this run is only possible with glitches, and the infinite height technique would be most often required. With it, you could avoid fall damage, reach useful sky islands, and complete a whole bunch of shrines. Also, you can skip the boss rush, but you could do it legitimately, and by that, I mean you would be legitimately insane. Can you beat Tears of the Kingdom without installing the game? Can you beat Tears of the Kingdom as a pacifist? Ah yes, Link, the hero and defender of Hyrule, has hung up his tunic and decided that his days of killing are over. Well, after the Keese in the beginning of the game, of course. And Ganondorf. And the Demon King's entire army. Yeah, this one is totally impossible. I might have accepted it if it was just the intro Keese and the final boss, but even the world record speedrun still kills the army. I'm not gonna bother counting every enemy, but there's at least 50 between all the waves, and that's a lot of blood. Gloom on Link's hands. The rest of the boss rush can be skipped using glitches though, so I'm pretty sure the Keese, the army, and Ganon himself are the only required kills to beat the game. Can you beat Tears of the Kingdom without the Zonai Arm? The No Right Arm run consists of not using any runes, weapons, bows, or thrown items, because all of those require the use of the Zonai Arm. I think it's fair to make an exception for killing the Keese in the beginning, because Link doesn't have Rari's arm yet. Unfortunately, it ends as soon as we're forced to use the Decayed Master Sword to cut through the vines in the tutorial. Even if I allow that though, every single one of the tutorial shrines is impossible for one reason or another. Beating the Fuse Shrine without runes requires throwing bombs, beating Ultra Hand requires weapons, and the Ascend and Recall Shrines need weapons to perform the Infinite Height glitch. Besides the many problems the tutorial poses, I have no idea how you go about defeating the boss with only shields and no thrown items. So it's safe to say that beating Tears of the Kingdom without ever using Link's new Zonai Arm is completely and utterly impossible. Can you beat Tears of the Kingdom without taking damage? Heh, nope. But in all seriousness, this is totally possible, and I have no doubt that someone will do it eventually. The real issue is that this is a multi-hour game for anyone who isn't a top-level speedrunner, and avoiding all combat and environmental damage for that amount of time would be quite difficult. In order to minimize the chances of taking damage, the best course of action would probably be to take the quickest route of beating the tutorial, getting the paraglider, and picking up overpowered weapons from Hyrule Castle, then heading straight for the final boss. I'm sorry if your idea wasn't included here. Some of them just didn't fit the style of the video or would have required another whole playthrough, which I wanted to avoid. Maybe I'll get around to yours at some point. Anyway, thank you so much for watching to the end, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.